Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ezra, the 9th chapter. And as we went through in the 8th chapter, we had gone through the preparation for the journey from I believe the name of the area where they were was like by the river Ahava, where Ezra requested some priests, and with them they basically made their journey to Jerusalem. And let's actually see how that chapter ended. Let's see here. Slack here 1 second. Yeah, so they made their way back to Jerusalem, and offered up the different offerings and so on and so forth. So now continuing in Ezra the 9th chapter, verse 1. Mixed marriages. Now when these things were done, the princes came to me saying, and the princes you here in this case are like a form of like the rulers, right? Those that were, the overseers or at that top level, right? So it says here, came to me saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. And these were the at least a portion of the neighboring nations, right, round about us. If you look here at a map of ancient Israel, and we get images here, I wonder if we can get a good one here. Okay, all right, maybe we could probably use this one here. So when you take a look here, you can see here you have Aram, which are the Syrians. You have Ammon, which are the Ammonites, right? Moabites, Edomites, and then really you also had some of the Canaanite nations, right? Some like you have here Tyre and Sidon and all of that, and then also some down here heading towards Egypt. So we had a bunch of these heathens around us, and especially more so now, right? Because in majority of this region here, you had heathens that were living there, which had been imported into the land during the reign of the Assyrians. So as the land, which at one point was filled with the northern kingdom, was now filled with these heathens, as at this time the northern kingdom the bulk of them were already in the Americas, right? And then in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, we read about that, right? So here, as they were telling Ezra that the people of the land, right, even the Levites they haven't separated themselves from these other nations that were around us, and so doing after their abominations, right, going into their ways, their practices, and these are all things that Yahweh Basham Yahweh Shai hates. Okay, he, as it says in Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 6. For thou art an holy people, right? So the Most High chose us and separated us from the rest of these nations. And that's why when you actually read the book of Deuteronomy, right, Moses is given the children of Israel this very clear warning here that, hey, when you go into this land, these are the things you are not supposed to do. And majority of it was centered around being and remaining separate from the ways of the neighboring nations. And that's why the Lord told us to eliminate all of them from the land so that we wouldn't even have that influence. And yet here it is, fresh out of captivity, back into the land, and this is what was going on. Verse 2. For they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands, and the holy seed being that of the Israelites, and the people of those lands being the the other nations here. So they were basically, taking the daughters of the other nations as wives and marrying the sons of, as it says, for themselves and for their sons. And that's what led to them eventually getting into those ways, those practices, similar to the situation with even King Solomon, right? Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers hath been chief in this trespass. And this is even worse, right? Because when you go to the book of, blue letter, I believe it's Jeremiah. It might be the 5th chapter. Let's see. Yeah, I believe this is Jeremiah 5. And let's see if I can find the verse. Maybe we'll just word search it. It's not for you? Oh, actually, it's Micah. Pardon me. Now, this is the book of Micah, chapter 3, verse 1, right? And it reads here, and I said, "Hear, I pray you, O heads of Jacob," right? So these would be, who would be like the heads of Jacob, for example? The princes, right? The elders, the chief ones, the priests, and all of that. So as it's saying here, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel, is it not for you to know judgment? And that's the question right there, right? For you to be in that position as a head or as one of the princes, you are, it is required more so of you to know judgment, because you would be one of those that's supposed to handle these matters when they come up. So now imagine in this case where Ezra is being told, hey, not only are the people of the land here marrying the women of these other nations and following after their ways, but the chief, the princes and the rulers are the ones who have been like the head, the spearheading this trespass here. And when I heard this thing, I rent my garment and my mantle and plucked off the hair of my head and of my beard and sat down astonied. And this was a sign or a way of mourning, in the ancient world, plucking off the hair. Now, it doesn't mean he ripped every single strand, okay? But it was just like a sign of great distress, okay? And astonied meaning he was almost like in shock, right? And not in a good way. Verse 4, then were assembled unto me every one that trembled at the words of the God of Israel. So those that fear the Lord, because of the transgression of those that had been carried away, and I sat astonied until the evening sacrifice. So you can imagine that whole time he was just out of it, right? All the way up until the evening sacrifice, keeping in mind that you had the morning oblation and the evening oblation, right? That's in the law, that we had to offer this sacrifice to the Lord. Verse 5, and at the evening sacrifice I arose up from my heaviness, and having rent my garment and my mantle, I fell upon my knees and spread out my hands unto the Lord Yahweh my God, and said, O my God, I am ashamed and blush to lift up my face to thee, my God, for our iniquities are increased over our head, and our trespass is grown up onto the heavens. Yeah, and you can imagine, right? Like we've gone through all of this. We ended up in captivity, right? The reason we had to be, we were able to escape or leave from Babylon to come here is because due to these same kinds of iniquity and transgressions, we were led captive into Babylon in the first place. And now, after the Lord having had mercy on us, we come back, and right when you come back, this is the behavior that's going on. The same thing that got us kicked out in the first place. So you can imagine Ezra here now saying, like, Lord, I prayed for these people when we were in captivity. I prayed you would have mercy. And now, looking at this, I don't even know how am I supposed to face you? Like, where do I even begin? Verse 7, Since the days of our fathers have we been in a great trespass unto this day. And for our iniquities have we, our kings, and our priests been delivered into the hand of the kings of the lands, to the sword, to captivity, and to a spoil, and to confusion of face, as it is this day. And this confusion of face here, let's actually go into that. I believe in here it's referring to just like being ashamed. What we have here for confusion? Bashath. Yeah, shameful, right? Basically for the position that we've constantly found ourselves in of having to suffer punishment for being disobedient. Verse 8, and now for a little space grace hath been shewed from the Lord Yahweh our power, to leave us a remnant to escape, and to give us a nail in his holy place, that our God may lighten our eyes, and give us a little reviving in our bondage. So, you know, for all the way from the time of our fathers, you know, those that were before us, we transgressed and trespassed to where, you know, the Lord put us in captivity. But even then he had mercy and delivered us and showed us that grace by leaving us a remnant to be able to come back, right? And not making the bondage one that was to our destruction. Verse 9, for we were bondmen, meaning slaves, yet our God hath not forsaken us in our bondage, but hath extended mercy unto us in the sight of the kings of Persia. Yeah, so you had, like we've gone over already, with Cyrus and Darius, and in this case now Artaxerxes, to give us a reviving, to set up the house of our God, and to repair the desolations thereof, and to give us a wall in Judah and in Jerusalem. See? And now, O our God, what shall we say after this? For we have forsaken thy commandments, which thou hast commanded by the servants, the prophets, saying, the land unto which ye go to possess it is an unclean land, with the filthiness of the people of the lands. What does that mean? Meaning that the things they practice are against, you know, the ways the Lord has set for us. And that's why it's unclean. They worship idols, you know, they do all forms of abominable things the Lord is not happy with. So that's why we were strictly warned, right? As Ezra is recounting here, with their abominations, which have filled it from one end to another with their uncleanness. Now therefore give not your daughters unto their sons, neither take their daughters unto your sons, nor seek their peace or their wealth forever, that ye may be strong, and eat the good of the land, and leave it for an inheritance to your children forever. So don't try to form any union, any joining with them, anything of that sort. And by following the ways of the Lord and remaining isolated from these other nations, we would be in good standing. The Lord would bless us. We would have the riches. The land would yield its best fruits, and we would be able to maintain the land, as it says here, and leave it for an inheritance. Because what happened when we disobeyed? The Lord took us out of the land. And after all that has come up or come upon us for our evil deeds and for our great trespass, seeing that our God has punished us less than our iniquities deserve, and has given us such deliverance as this, should we again break thy commandments and join in affinity with the people of these abominations? So we done already went off. We went off, and the Lord put us in captivity, but even then he had mercy, right? And the punishment he gave us was not as severe as what we did would deserve. And now, having had that mercy, should we now go right back and do the same things that got us in there in the first place? Wouldst not thou be angry with us till thou hadst consumed us, so that there should be no remnant nor escaping? So saying, look, the first time around you had mercy, you saved the remnant, and we were able to return and rebuild the temple and all that. And now, if we go off and do the same thing again, I mean, you know, we probably get to the point where there would be no remnant this time. That's how pissed off you would make the Most High. Verse 15, O Lord Yahweh, God of Israel, thou art righteous, for we remain yet escaped, as it is this day. Behold, we are before thee in our trespass, for we cannot stand before thee because of this. And remember that this is Ezra was pretty much praying right at this point at the time of the evening sacrifice. Okay, but anyway, that brings us to the end of Ezra the 9th chapter, and Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rekha Kodash, and until next time, Shalom.